All right. It's alive. Or maybe it's
You
not. We don't know.
Spoiler is not.
All right.
Everyone thinks because you're a zombie, you don't know good coffee. Well, they're wrong. There's only one brew that gets my seal of approval. Deadly Grounds coffee is my guilty pleasure. The aroma is so intoxicating. It brings all of my neighbors out of the woodwork. Deadly Grounds coffee. Coffee to die for and zombie approved. It's good to get a little deadly. Use the front door! Oh, they're so disgusting.
The Dorkening and all affiliated shows are not intended for anyone under the age of 18. The following may contain discussions or scenes that have adult situations, graphic violence, nudity, strong sexual content, and graphic language. This show is intended for mature audiences only. Viewer discretion is advised.
Greetings and salutations, everyone. I am your Uncle Necro, and I welcome you all back to the Tomb of the Terrible, where tonight we watch the movie Trailer Park of Terror. Now, let me bring up my notes. Trailer Park of Terror is a 2008 American horror film directed by Stephen Goldman and written by Timothy Dolan, based on the Imperium comic series of the same name. 6 troubled high school students and their chaperone are returning from a retreat when their bus crashes, stranding them in the middle of the trailer park of hell, literally. Without warning, hillbilly zombies looking for fun begin slaughtering the teens in gruesome fashion. So, this was my first time watching it. Was this the same for you two?
Yes.
Yes.
Awesome. Well, so this is going to be our first impressions all around tonight. I have with me Del and Ron. Stevie, we love you. But there is a hurricane going on, so Jenny and Josh won't be making it, and Dr. Raz is currently disposed of, as well as Pyle, so it's just going to be an intimate night in the tomb with all of us. So, like I said, this is the first time I've seen it. It's on Tubi. And Del, what were your first impressions here?
Okay. Having recovered from last week, finally, after shoving myself through a lot of movie watching to like rinse out the brain a bit.
Right.
This was about as bad as I expected it to be, only a little better. Like depending on which aspect of it. This was a hoot of a movie, I thought. It was the special effects are pretty decent. They had some nifty ideas. I thought, like, we have zombies, but one of them is really good at like putting on her own face again. And I loved the scene where she's pumping up her body with an air pump because she has large breasts and like she has started sagging. So she just gets this air pump and like blows herself up to where she's normal. And that's something I was like, because these aren't George Romero zombies. These are semi-intelligent as they were only semi-intelligent in life, so they kept that kind of level in their death. And hillbilly redneck zombies, I believe, is what somebody referred to them as in the show. So it starts off really interesting, and I had to show because I was telling you about this. The way that they all became zombies, and the one girl was like in charge of them, is she made a deal with the man. And this man, when I first saw him, I wondered when Lemmy had gotten his hair dyed to get this done, and it turns out I was so wrong. I was so very, very wrong. But it was actually a musician, and you said it was Trace Atkins?
Atkins. Yes.
Atkins. Okay. So
Trace
that's
Atkins.
different than Trey Aikens, right?
True.
There are extra letters involved. Yeah. So
Slight
so it
variation.
wasn't. So I looked up some of his songs and I was like, nah. I wouldn't listen to if it were a pop tune named that, and I don't have any like screw you country, you're bad or anything kind of feel, but just didn't look like he was quite up my alley. But he makes us deal with him, so that's another aspect that you don't normally have in a zombie film. You know, he makes a deal with her, the girl, and then she goes back and kicks some ass, and then we have the youth group, which wow. Those youth group kids were mean. I was like, what Bible camp did you just get off of, man? You're a total dick. And
I'm guessing they were
the pastor.
Baptists.
Well, the pastor had no control over these kids. They just mocked him, and he's just like, okay, well, I guess I just let him do that because I don't know what else I can do. But yeah, so there were some great scenes that had me giggling, like zombies getting blown up and then them like duct taping one of them back together so that he can run around for the night. There were a couple of questionable moments, like one girl was unconscious in like the dead center of the trailer park for a good hour or so. And the zombies didn't bother grabbing her. They were busy getting everybody else. But it seems to me like that would have been the perfect time to grab the most active, she was the final girl. And instead of just letting her lay there as they're wheeling and killing her friends and stuff, just at least tying her up or throwing her in the cage that was 5 feet away. But then again, these were intelligent zombies up to the level of intelligence that they were before they became zombies. So it's all different. And I do have a question for you. Although since it was your first time watching it too, old guy at the very end who picks her up, spoiler, but he is also in the beginning when it's giving them directions and tells them not to go there. I got a vibe off of that, like it was almost like House of a Thousand Corpses, where they give the directions to go to the wrong place and then they wait at the end and kind of grab him at the end, whether he was actually taking her to safety or not. I wasn't sure, but I can't remember the actor's name, but he's the guy who seems to show up in every place that you need old cowboy or old hillbilly type of casting. He's just one of the people that's there.
Tracy Walker or Tracy Walter was the actor.
Okay. He just is it just me or is he that role?
Yeah, I think so. I'd have to look at his filmography to just double check. But I believe so. He does look familiar. Now, for the record, excuse me. For the record, it was Priscilla Barnes who was giving the directions in the cafe, who I remember as the the second replacement for the original Chrissy in Three's Company. Her character's name was Terry, but that's just me. So, Ron, what were your first impressions?
Based on the title alone, Trailer Park of Terror, I was really expecting low quality B movie along the same vein of a lot of the other movies that we have watched up to this point. I expected it to be rather bad, maybe campy, maybe a little bit cheesy, bad acting, bad writing, bad script, and all of that, and somehow turn out to be a somewhat decent movie. So I was pleasantly surprised when this was not that. This is more of a professional quality, professionally done movie with a higher budget, decent acting, and a pretty good script. Uh, I really I enjoyed this movie a lot, and there was a lot of pretty cool moments that I thought about it just with the way that the characters were acted, because you get to see them in life first, and then you find out that in death they're essentially still the same. Uh, Probably maybe a little bit crazier now because they're not limited by uh, life's weaknesses. Uh, that being said, there's only really one major issue that I took with this movie. I don't consider these zombies because they're not created like regular normal zombies. These are undead, rather possibly even ghosts in some aspect, because they are specifically created by a deal that is made with the man who represents, I suppose, the devil. They never explicitly stated whether he was or not, but maybe one of the devil's minions that makes deals. I don't know. But he had all the makings of someone that looked like he could be a devil. So that's what I'll go with. Therefore, I don't consider these zombies. They are specifically undead, and they appear in their death in much the same capacity as how they died. Uh, and the reason why I say ghost rather than zombie is because they manifest at certain points. They're not just always there. They do disappear and reappear. And unlike zombies, if you cut the head off, then they die. But that's not the case with these particular people. You can dismember them, as is the case with one of them, the guitar player guy, and they duct tape him back together, and he's perfectly normal. So the one big issue that I had is that there's not a lot of explanation as to why, other than this is just a deal that she made with the devil, but it doesn't go into detail with what the deal was, why they came back and not just her. She's the only one that made the deal. How come they came back? I mean, if it was the deal was with just her and she killed them all, then they should probably still have been dead, and it should only have been her that came back. So there really was no explanation as to why this was happening in the trailer park, just that it's been happening over a period of time and people have been hearing. And that's about it. But I realize that none of that is really important, because you can make of it what you will, and it does not deter from the overall enjoyment of this movie.
Okay. We can get into that a bit deeper. We were just going for immediate takes here. So
That was my immediate
for me,
take.
Okay. Well, for me, basically, I was the impression I got was just like Ron. I was expecting, with a name like Trailer Park of Terror, one of those no budget filmed on a cell phone or what very no budget horror flick that you would get in those 50 movie packs from Walmart. that are just, just wondrous trash. Instead, I believe I believe what popped in my head when I was making my dinner after watching this movie was that this would be like if Rob Zombie made a horror movie in the 90s and went for the House 2 aesthetic. If you've ever seen House 2 in the 80s, it's kind of like that. It edges on comedy, but plant firmly in the horror genre there. It definitely, the first part, before the deal was made with the men, kind of started triggering me simply because I grew up with those kind of redneck type relatives that were just bullies, much like that. And I could see that actually happening. What triggered her response to go and make the deal with the, we'll just call him the devil, because, a devil, whatever you want to call him, the man in black, whatever you want. But later on, I started getting very, very annoyed with those kids in that bus, especially the one who just came off as wouldn't shut the fuck up, and coming as somebody who has spent a couple of decades as a church youth volunteer. Yeah, that's I think they were kind of going for over the top parody, but no, that was. We'll get to that, Stefan. But it's just one of those things where there's always that one kid you want to punch, no matter how pious they're like the super pious thing. But I'm not going to go into that. All I can say is that it had a nice balance of you feel for the kids, but you're also rooting for them to get their butt kicked, if not killed. And this turned out to be a movie that really was a hell of a lot better than I expected, and my expectations were kind of low. So, so we're going to start in then with the things that we actually liked about the movie, and then after that we'll get into the stuff we didn't like. But right now we're getting into what we actually liked about the movie, delve a little bit deeper into things, maybe the lore, as Stefan was asking about earlier. Del, we'll start with you.
Okay, I'm gonna go with right off the bat. I obviously had a connection with the goth girl. She was the like, oh yeah, she's pretty cool. I can dig her because I was the goth kid in high school basically, and I did go to youth group things and stuff. But and yes, there was somebody in high school that we both dealt with that I'm not going to mention their name, but there might have been more than one, but who's just that obnoxious kid. But it just blew my mind. They made sure that you knew everything about these kids in one gas station stop along the road. It was, this guy's bullying everybody. He's bullying her because she's a goth, and he's bullying this guy because he's pretty sure he's gay. He's bullying this guy for being a perv, and perv goes and steals porno magazines. Goth girl defended herself. One girl, or potentially gay man, is like, leave me alone, man. Perv guy is like, leave me alone, I got a magazine, man. And there was one other girl who literally during a stop at a truck stop to get beverages with her youth pastor there, convinced one of the customers to take her out around the corner to do something naughty in order to get drugs right after they were coming down from the youth trip. And the other girl she was basically there to antagonize the bully, or be the bully's backup in antagonism, and yeah, do that shit, and to have sex with him. And that was pretty much her
Yep.
entire character depth. But with regards to what they were, because you're right, they weren't really zombies. I'd say more they were like a remnant kind of thing, because the only ones that came back in the beginning, we see this girl who's very pretty trying to get out of this trailer park to go on a date. Like, she's not trying to just escape for life, she's trying to just go on a date. And it's in the truckers triangle, which is where at that point the truckers would go to get them some from the hoes that be around there. And all the people who harassed her are the ones that she shot. The one who wanted to recruit her to be part of her brothel. The old lady who kept chasing after her to sniff her, which was really weird. And the people who harassed her, those were the only ones she shot, and those were the only ones who came back. The rest of them just apparently moved when all of this happened. But, it burned to the ground afterwards, so they might have died, but the only ones that came back were the ones she shot with the gun that was given to her by the man in black, or the devil, whatever we want to call him. He was referred to as both when I looked him up a little bit on his horror Wikipedia thing. But so yeah, it kind of, it made no sense to me as to why she was luring everybody there to let them go through the same things that she had been trying to escape. That was very weird to me. Like, they were remnants shooting porn while they were dead. And I don't know, that was a really weird angle to take things in. Like, well, this is like, I don't know how they distributed it, if they did or not, but it was just a really bizarre take on things. But overall, yeah, I did like, because of the difference. Like, when you said it, when Stefan was asking why the zombies, it's just those people. When the sun comes up, yeah, they just disappear, and the place turns back into being a burned out husk of a trailer park. But during the middle of the night, it's like preserved as to where it had been when the initial event happened. So I think they had some creative ideas behind this beyond the normal zombie style of movie or similar things. And most of them worked. They did leave us questioning things a little bit, though. They didn't quite get into depth as to, like, he only appears at the very beginning and the very end, and so you don't know, like, what was the deal? Like you were saying, we don't know why it turned out this way.
Uh-huh.
So sorry about my rambling there, and if I'm having problems, guys, I'm
No.
lagging. So
Yeah.
that's something.
It's yeah, I think that you do bring him some interesting points. I'm going to save mine for after Ron gives what he likes about this. But go ahead, Ron.
Some of the things that I liked, I have to say that I really, really liked the makeup and costume usage in this movie. I thought that they were top notch, especially with the guitar player guy, where his entire chest is exposed, and they're just all like, the whole faces and everything are missing, because they all died. Not just from gunshot wounds, but when she blew up the entire trailer park. So, of course, their bodies are going to be burned. And they kept that detail in with all of the undead when they came back. I'm not going to call them zombies, because I don't think that they are. Remnants, maybe. They kept that detail in, that they all show as burned, especially the Asian hooker lady that gave the massage, because she was wearing the porcelain mask, and then when like the mask breaks, you can see that her face is very burnt underneath it. And I thought that was just a a great detail, the fact that they left that in. Also, I love the soundtrack of this movie. It was very bluesy, very rocky, kept the tone of the movie going. It was very consistent throughout, had some great songs. And the guitar guy, I want to say his name was Eddie, if I'm not mistaken.
Roach.
I I paid a lot of
Roach.
attention. What was it?
Roach.
Roach.
Roach. Okay, that's right. I paid a lot of attention uh, when he was playing guitar, because sometimes they'll put guitarists in movies and you hear the soundtrack, but what they're playing doesn't actually match what the soundtrack actually is. But in this case, everything that he was playing lined up, it matched with what was being played in the movie. So I have no doubt that he was actually playing those parts in the movie, playing those
Yeah.
guitar parts. And I love it when they do that, when it's an actual guitarist playing in a movie and there's no question about it. And I thought that was great. Uh, I like the all of the troubled kids. They had no uh, story arc. There was no development. They were all two-dimensional, as we call them in the literary world. They were all two-dimensional kids. And usually in a story, if you have a two-dimensional character, there's some kind of story arc where the person grows and develops, and by the end of the story, they're a three-dimensional person. Something has happened to change them, to make them a more fulfilling character. That was not the case. They were each a character type. They explicitly served a role. One was the bully, one was a drug addict, one was a pervert, a sex fiend, and so on. So their deaths, the way that they died in each scenario, was custom fitted to what their character type was. The pervert, on the massage table with the Asian hooker, the heroin addict or the drug addict got into Roach's stash, and that led to her downfall. And the bully with his girlfriend, and they're having sex, and they're the ones that get tortured by Nora and the rest of them trying to make the movie. So each character type, that was their flaw that led to their downfall. And I thought that was an interesting plot point. And I don't know if either of you noticed that was the case, but I thought it was an interesting plot point. So yeah, there's a lot of little things like that in this movie that I really liked. I would have liked to have seen more expounding on the devil character, or for him to show up maybe at midpoint through the movie and talking to Nora and maybe divulge a little bit more information about what the deal actually was. Because, well, I guess this is leading into one of the things that I didn't really like about the movie, but it's not so bad that it totally threw it off for me. Getting into that, at the beginning of the movie, Nora just wants to go on a date. She, wants to get out of the trailer park for a little bit and all of that. And then her boyfriend gets killed from the other trailer park bullies. She makes a deal with the devil. She gets her revenge. She goes, she kills them all. Okay, that's fine. Then there's this point of acceptance where she just blows up the entire trailer park with her in it. When she comes back, she's the only one that has changed character-wise. All of the rest of them are still the same. Roach is still about his pot and his drugs. They're all basically the same people that they were in life. She's the only one that's changed because she wanted to get out of the trailer park. But now, after her death and the deal with the devil, she's leaned into it. She's accepted it. Now she's the queen of the trailer park. All of them answer to her. And she is no longer trying to be the good girl and escape. She's leaning into it and has become the worst of the bunch. And I thought that was an interesting plot point. So while she's still somewhat two-dimensional. She's the only one that's actually switched. And nobody in this movie is completely redeemable. And you could make it a point for maybe the goth girl is, because Nora sees herself in the goth girl, which is the reason why she gets to live. But does that excuse all of the bad shit she's done up and to that point in her life? She's out of the movie for the most part because she's unconscious. So I thought that these were just interesting plot points. We're watching what happens to everybody else, and she turns out to be somewhat the main character in a way because she's the only one that lives.
I believe we call that the final girl.
Mm-hmm.
So, interesting expounding there. I would have to say what you find, no explanation as far as the motivation behind the men, I actually find as a plus, because I'm a big proponent of let the viewer think about what has happened. Don't give them everything. Don't spoon feed them. Just give an idea and trust that the viewer is smart enough to actually try to connect, make a connection.
Well, that was
which
the point that
leads to
I made at the beginning. That was the point that I made at the beginning, where
Right.
I would like to have seen more exposition on what the deal actually was, but it does not matter because it does not deter from the enjoyment of the movie. And it's better, less is more. Leave it at less so that the audience can make their own decision about what actually happened.
Right. What I was about to say, though, is this is based on a comic book series, so it may actually be in the comics. I didn't have time to actually find them online to actually double check. I have no idea how long of a series this is, so I may get back to that at a later date. I don't know, but Dell is normally our comic book girl, so I don't know if you've come across this.
No, I was going to, and it got to be too late today to pull up the comics and read them. It does say, there's some more exposition on it in his definition, so I'm assuming that probably was relayed in the comics. So it's something. It's kind of like with the MCU movies where people might not understand what's going on, but they just kind of accept it because the movie's flowing enough. Then they, you trying to explain like, well, why does this character do this in a Marvel movie? To my mother has taught me it is futile. She does not want to hear about the comics or anything. But in this case, and there was also 2 cuts of this movie, I believe. So it might have been maybe the cut that we all watched on Tubi. It might not have been included in that. It could have just been considered too extraneous. So I'm not sure.
That would be interesting to look into, I think. But as far as what I liked the fact that the writers and the directors, they actually took time to think this out, to give it a little bit of flesh on the bone. I am in agreement that no, these are not zombies. They do fall under the undead category, but I'm thinking it's more of a ghoul type situation, wherein after making the deal with the devil, she is now enslaved by the devil, and she may seem to, for some odd reason, be the leader of the trailer park people that she so desperately wanted to get away from, but that's essentially the deal that she made, and now that's her own personal hell, I guess. Having to lead these people.
That too.
Yeah. So, but the makeup and the effects on this, top notch, really great. There was a slight bit of CGI when her face started kind of coming off a bit at that one scene, but that, that was the minor quibble that I had. Also Priscilla Barnes. I always go hee whenever I see her, like in The Devil's Rejects when she was in that. I'm like, hey, that's Terry from Three's Company. I like to think that's the actual character, and that's how she moved on from that situation. Anyway, but okay, so now we are, yeah, but we are now moving on to what we didn't like about this movie. I'm not sure if there's going to be a lot, but Del, go ahead, whenever you're ready.
I'm gonna jump in real quick to give us on the Villains Wiki what the deal was.
Okay.
After the murder of her fiance, Erin, a devastated woman named Norma leaves Top Hat Meads, which I think some of this is different in the movie, until she comes across a mysterious man who gives her a gun in order to act her revenge in exchange for her soul and eternal servitude. And then it says that after she goes in, she kills everybody, tosses a cigarette, blows everything up, and after arriving in hell, the man then allows Norma to return home with everyone she murdered as her minions, as long as she collected souls for him by killing everyone that came across them for the next several decades. So that's apparently the deal that was made that we didn't learn about in the movie.
Okay.
I kind of got that actually, because they did allude to that within the movie when you start seeing the newspaper clippings of people that are disappearing out of this, from this trailer park over the years. So I'm thinking that these ghosts, or these remnants, they do not necessarily exist until someone treads within that area of the trailer park. That's when they manifest, and they pull, they kill those people, all the bad people, and pull those souls into hell. And that's basically what the deal was. They're collecting souls for the devil at that point. So that was kind of the gist that I got from it, just because the people kept disappearing. And then when you see the trailer park at the end, it's all just a burnout husk, like Del said. So I feel like they only manifest when there are people there to actually kill.
Yeah, and as far as the things that I didn't like, I kept waiting for character development to occur. And like Ron pointed out very well earlier, these were very two-dimensional characters throughout the entire movie. I then was trying to be like, okay, if we link these up, there were 6 kids and then the youth pastor who died very early on. Can we tie them into like the 7 deadly sins or something like that? Was that supposed to be something that was going? No. Okay. That wasn't it. So I couldn't come up with, I mean, they did die though, like you were saying, doing what was wrong with them. So it was just like, or however they were broken as people, but it didn't go into the one kid who was being accused of being gay. They did nothing with his character at all. He just kind of, other than the fact that one kid made fun of him for that, they didn't allude to the fact that might actually be something other than some bully just being like, yeah, you're gay, And he just kind of hung out for a little bit and died incidentally. Like
No,
he
he's the one
didn't
that got
really have any
decried from the butcher.
No, that was the bully.
No, the bully was.
No, the kid I'm talking about, he died by getting run over
He was run
in the
over.
end. They threw him in
He
the
was in the
cage.
cage.
Yeah, that's right. They threw him in the cage.
Yeah,
Right.
he spent
This
most of
is
his
a
time
movie with
underneath a crawl space. Yeah.
This is a movie with a demolition derby.
Yeah, they go and find cars, and all of a sudden they're not the only people in the cars. Like it's something apparently remnants, we'll call them, do for fun. 'Cause not even the movie refers to them as zombies. Somebody calls them that, but
Right.
that doesn't necessarily mean that they
It's
are.
just one of the characters, and it's kind of an arbitrary line
Yeah.
thrown out there, which it makes
Right.
sense, in that situation.
Yeah, and another thing it did remind me kind of the dialogue wise and some of the portrayal. It was like an almost Rob Zombie movie. You'd mentioned that, and it felt like it was inspired by uh, House of a Thousand Corpses or something like that with some of the dialogue and some of the acting that they did. They changed some of the lines, but there was a lot of really that style of acting going on that we've
Yeah.
come to expect from a Rob Zombie film. So, oh, hi, Mike. Sorry I missed you.
Hey, Mike.
Don't worry, we hadn't
Right.
either.
It's a good movie, though. Check it out.
Yep. Free on Tubi.
So those are some of the things that I didn't like, but not too much. It wasn't that bad, you know.
I know. Because,
So I was gonna say,
well,
so
I was
Ron, I guess, but I'll finish. Yeah.
well, I was going to say that my friend Brian and I went to see Maxine over the weekend. The third part of Ty West's horror trilogy, I guess. And that turned out to be a bit shorter discussion simply because there wasn't much we didn't like about the movie. It was one of those, the more nits we would pick, the greater the podcast, I guess. But anyway, Ron, what were some of the things that you didn't like about the movie besides everything, the minor points?
I'm going to
Yeah.
answer this real quick before you do. Mike, currently there is some problems going on behind the scenes with some of the people in the campaigns. So until that all gets resolved, it will not be coming back. We will let you know, however, when we are going to be bringing the Owlite Adventures show back. So, yeah. Okay, sorry.
Okay.
Got that out of the way. Now we're on.
Other than the things that I've already mentioned, and my biggest critique, of course, being that I felt like they could have expound upon what the deal was a little bit better, and maybe had the devil appear at least one more time to talk with Norma and explain the deal a little bit. There's really not a lot about this movie that I didn't like. And what Dell said about there being no character development, I'm rather okay with that, because I feel like if there had been more character development, I thought that it would have made the movie much more heady and probably not as good. I think that it would have interfered with the enjoyment of the movie. The caveat to that being that usually in a movie like this, they try to build up one character so that you develop an emotional response to when that person actually dies, and you go, "Oh, I like that character," And in this case, I didn't feel that for any of the characters, because I was in it for the enjoyment of the movie and the different ways in which they would die. So I didn't really need to feel anything for the characters. So I'm kind of glad that it didn't have the character development in that way. But if you take a look at a movie like House of a Thousand Corpses, as we've mentioned before, there wasn't really much character development in that movie either, because when you have a movie titled House of a Thousand Corpses, you're watching that movie because it's called House of a Thousand Corpses, not House of a whole bunch of characters with character development that are eventually going to die. It's the same thing with this movie, Trailer Park of Terror. You're watching it because it's called Trailer Park of Terror. Okay, that it's an enticing name. What does this entail? What kind of movie am I going to watch? And you get exactly what the title says. And if you put character development in there, I think that it would interfere with that enjoyment. So I'm kind of glad that it wasn't there.
I mean, I think that was the idea behind Snakes on a Plane.
Exactly.
I You got me to see it.
Motherfucking snakes on a plane. That's what you get.
Yeah. Right. So as far as I think I'm in agreement with everybody. There's hardly anything I didn't like about this movie, other than I do tend to. Okay, so this is the same complaint I normally have with the Rob Zombie movies. A lot of the more trailer park type characters can tend to get a little more grossly over the top, if you understand where I'm getting at. As far as, woo-wee, I'm going to fuck you up.
Over exaggerated.
Right. And that tended to get on my nerves, especially at the beginning when they were bullying the poor girl. But yeah, it's I think the fact that you weren't really too sympathetic with any of the characters that were being killed off worked in the movie's favor. I did have kind of a kinship, like Dell mentioned, with the goth character, but that is kind of where I'm laying too. We didn't really dive into what made her broken, for lack of a better word, I guess. Why they didn't really mess with her too much and let her go at the end, besides the fact that the sun was coming up and their time was almost up. But I could have gotten.
He basically quoted almost exactly everything that Norma said at the beginning of the movie.
Okay.
Yeah, she had that little moment of, I want to be respected for what I am. Yeah, and then, fuck you, kill me, you'd be doing me a favor. And then it's like, oh.
Okay.
Well, then we won't.
All right. Well, in that case, let's see. I didn't bring up any of the 5-star reviews on this one. I was kind of running behind. I'll bring them up right now. So if there's anything else you wanted to add, now would be the time.
I thought when I saw her laying there on the ground, the goth girl, for a second it came to me like, hold on just a second, I need to clear my throat. It reminded me of Nancy from The Craft for a second there. And I was like, you know what?
Okay.
They have all these like different monster movie things where it's like, we've had like Freddy meets Jason and all the old timey ones and stuff. And I think it would have been a really cool movie to have like Nancy just show up. And, I think we need to see movies kind of like that with characters that aren't as huge of a villain character, like a slasher or something, show up in a movie. That would be something that would make me happy. I would have enjoyed seeing her in that.
There's another point that I wanted to make. This movie calls to itself at the very beginning of the movie when you see Norma getting ready and they show the TV. There's 2 hosts on there, and the show that they're watching is Trailer Park of Terror, which is very meta. And it makes me think about Joe Bob Briggs when he would host Monster Vision, because he would usually sit in a lawn chair outside of a trailer. I mean, I know it was a studio set, but they had it decorated like he was sitting outside of a trailer. I think it would have been an interesting call or an homage to Joe Bob Briggs if they could have worked that into the movie somehow.
Yeah, I do remember that part. But I have up the 5-star reviews on Amazon. And starting with A. Jenkins, we have, this movie is one of my absolute favorites. I'm a huge fan of horror and of, that's how he typed it out. I'm a huge fan or horror. I think he meant of. And love a good, serious, scary movie. But sometimes you need a horror movie that can make you laugh. This movie does just that. So, best hidden gem horror movie, Great everything on this movie. If you're a fan of the Return of the Living Dead, Nightmare on Elm Street, or any of the old-timey greats, old-timey, really? Now I feel old. You are sure to enjoy the heck out of this one. So there's this really old movie called Alien, and yeah, so but and I love this movie, always have. I have this on DVD and wanted it for my digital library as well. If you're into gore, funny enough horror movies where you actually root for one of the zombie demon creatures, you'll probably like this movie. And the last one here that I'll read off, I Smell Meat, which really I should have put down. Okay. Great movie to enjoy with friends. I talked about this movie to some friends for years, and when I finally saw it that it was on Amazon, I had to buy it because sharing is in fact caring. So, yeah, I have to tend to agree with these. Night, but I have to tend to agree with these 5-star reviews, and that leaves one last thing. Before we get to that, we are going to pay some bills. So let's go ahead and roll the thing. We'll be right back.
Greetings and shabebans. We are the Retro Reductopus Cephala Podcast, a long-form bi-weekly show that celebrates all the things that made growing up awesome.
Yeah, that sounds good, but I don't know what all those words mean.
I think what Parasite Steve's trying to say is that on Retro Reductopus, we explore a range of retro goodness, from toys, video games, and movies, to cartoons, and even snacks and school lunches.
Oh.
And we do it all with a positive spin, a slew of killer guests, and some very adult language.
And you know what else is cool?
No.
This crazy show is part of the Door King Podcast Network with new episodes every Tentacle Tuesday.
What's that?
And if waiting 2 weeks for a new episode gives you a sad, know that we drop bonus episodes all the time, like the off-format Crow's Nest and an interview series we call The Brick.
You can listen to Retro Reductopus on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, or any app that's cool enough to carry the only show that celebrates all the things that make growing up awesome.
Welcome back. We're into some lovely advertisements. Now, we are going to go ahead and get our rating for the movie and whether or not we're going to recommend this to friends, family, enemies, whatnot, have you. So, Del, we'll start with you.
I'm going to give this movie a 7 out of 10. And
Okay.
I enjoyed it. It was humorous. I would recommend it, probably not to my mom, but she doesn't like horror anyway, so nothing that we watch would I ever recommend to her. But to friends who like fun horror movies, I would definitely suggest it there. So yeah, this
Okay.
for being a Tomb of the Terrible movie, this was not terrible, but it
No.
was B movie enough to like fit in the category, you know.
Yeah. So
So
Ron.
that's what I got.
Okay.
I will give. Well, since there was really only one small thing about the movie that I took issue with, and I won't even say that I didn't like it, because I can go either way on it. I can make an argument for it either way. That being the whole exposition on what the deal actually was. If they had put that in, I thought that it would have helped the movie. But even though they didn't put it in, I thought the movie stands up on its own as a pretty decent movie. Therefore, I am going to give this movie an 8 out of 10. I don't believe that there's ever any movie that can be a 10 out of 10, because that would just make it the perfect movie. And I don't think I've ever watched a perfect movie. I was thinking about maybe whether or not I would give it a 9 out of 10, but I still feel like maybe there's some room for improvement if they were to ever possibly remake this. And I don't know why they would, because I don't know how, other than messing with the storyline a little bit, that could make it any better. So I'm going to give it a solid 8 out of 10. And as far as recommending it to people, I already have. I've actually mentioned it to my friend Maddie when he comes over and we sit and watch horror movies a lot. I've mentioned it to a couple of people on TikTok that also do horror movie reviews as well. And I've mentioned it to my haunt crew at Backwoods Oddities for them to watch it as well. So yeah, I will continue recommending this movie, and this is probably not the last time I'm going to watch it, just because I liked it.
Awesome. As far as I go, I will definitely give it a 7 out of 10 as well. I thoroughly enjoyed this. This was not what I was expecting, and that is a good thing. That was in a good way. I was impressed greatly by how much love was put into this movie, and I'm surprised I haven't seen and loved this sooner than now. As far as recommending this, oh heck yeah, I would recommend it to pretty much anybody and everybody that I know loves this kind of a horror, or just has a small bit of a morbid streak down their back. And Summer Whedon Bear definitely loved it. So that leaves the Wheel of the Terrible.
All right,
Are we
everybody.
ready?
We
I
are
thought we only
ready.
had one movie left on it, didn't we? Sleepaway Camp.
We still need.
We still need to spin it. It
Okay.
must be spun so it can be done. Okay. What are we all voting on here?
Sleepaway Camp, maybe. I don't know. I'm
Okay.
I'm curious.
I'm
What's it
hoping
going?
we're
Oh,
gonna
there
get
it goes.
some sleepaway camp here. Maybe. I don't know. Oh,
So close.
oh.
Uh,
Get.
uh,
Where are we? Oh,
Yay!
it
it's
just lands on the
sleepaway camp.
line. Nothing.
Yeah, right.
Yay! Sleepaway Camp.
So yeah, which
So-
is a 2B movie, by the way, folks. So
It is a 2B
send us
movie,
your
but
selection.
oh, I was watching
Not
this
just a
over
B
and over.
movie, it's a
long
2B movie.
straight thing. I'm beginning to understand now, but yeah, I can't wait to have an excuse to rewatch this movie. Even
Okay.
though I know the twist, everybody knows the twist. We don't care. It's a great movie. You wait. This is you never saw it? No.
No,
All right.
no.
Well, can't wait for next week then.
I guess I'll be seeing it. Oh boy,
Okay.
boy howdy!
So-
Am I excited?
And it'll probably be better than the first time watching Troll 2, I'm guessing, for you.
Oh my God.
So,
The only time watching Troll 2,
yeah.
confirming that for y'all. Don't do it.
Oh, oh, just say no, kids. But Del, where can we find you?
Oh, you can find me here on the Owlite Network between 1 to 4 times a week, depending on the schedule and what we have going on. You can also find me Tuesday nights over on Splash Pages, also on the Dorkening Network, where we do comic books. Tomorrow night, we are going to have Ray Fox on. And if you want to keep up with the reading on there, we read the 12-issue series Gotham by Midnight, which was quite good and was very interesting view. There's very little Batman. It follows a sect of the Gotham Police Department that deals with paranormal cases. So it's got some real coolness going to it. If you want to find my author page or anything like that, don't use this name. Look up Carrie Kari Sanders on Facebook, and that if you see this picture as an avatar, that is me. I am judging you.
Looks just like you.
But you can follow all my links. They go everywhere, and Jenny tends to answer most of them. She is not here tonight, however. Also want to throw in before I pop off, we are working on updating our YouTube stuff. So we're going to have extra channels, including Tomb of the Terrible will have its own channel. I'll be adding that in the show notes up above or down below. But that way you can find us on both pages. Getting a little confusing here. So yeah, if you can follow, like, subscribe, anything like that, we would love it. We are one like away, or whichever it is, on our YouTube page from hitting 100. So we would love it if we could hit there. Also on our Twitch pages and stuff. And because the more stuff that you guys, the more likes and follows we have on things, the more things we can do for you. They give us better ways to interact and give you more content. So that would be awesome. And yeah, that's me.
All right.
On the network.
Ron, where can we find you?
You can find me here in the Owlite Network, usually on Sundays and Monday nights as my schedule permits. And you can also find me at my author page on Facebook under Ronald W Gillespie Jr. author for my new book and any subsequent books that I end up publishing, and hopefully there will be many. You can also find me on TikTok. I am a martial artist by profession, and I make martial arts related content for TikTok, and you can find me there under @Wolf Dojo, and Wolf is spelled with a U, WULFDOJO. And other than that, you can also talk to Jenny, and if you can't find me anywhere else, she can get in touch with me.
Okay. And I remain, as always, your humble servant, UncleNecRo. And I just want to take a moment and say that for the same price as a coffee at Starbucks, you can buy a Kindle edition of the Owlite Menagerie, which features a whole slew of of the authors and storytellers and poetry writers here on the Owlite Society and the Owlite Network. And for the next year, all proceeds go to this nonprofit charity to fight illiteracy. It's also available in softcover and hardcover too. So if you prefer that, it's available for you wherever you purchase your books.
And I believe the three of us have stories in that book, do we not?
Yes, we do.
Yep.
And you can find me here on the farm for the time being in eastern Nebraska. I'm on the Tomb of the Terrible every Monday night, and sometimes I pop in on the padded cell whenever I remember to wake up in time. And there's various blogs, a couple of other podcasts that I handle here too, and it's been a pleasure to share this movie with you guys. And I can't wait to share the sleepaway camp with you next week. So until then,
I'm curious
about. Yes, you will be. Seek help.
Good night, everybody.